up? Hi, my name is Rain and welcome to my second channel. Today, I have decided that I want to learn more about SCPs. I am not too well versed in them. I know about a couple of them, obviously, mostly the well-known ones and the funny ones. Instead of sitting you through a 5-hour-long iceberg, I thought it might be fun to check what YouTube thinks the most terrifying SCPs are. So today we're going to be watching the most terrifying SCPs by Gearisko. Alright, let's get into it.
SCP-1128 absolutely terrifying.
Now that is a maw. What that mouth do? That's so massive. Oh my god. It's like what, whale sized?
Terrifies me. Imagine if every time you fully submerged yourself in a body of water, no matter how shallow, you'd instantly disappear from the sight of anyone looking at you. Although you seem to have vanished off the face of the earth, in reality you've been transported to an ocean, one that really does exist on Earth, nowhere near your previous location. As scary as that sounds, that's actually not the scary part.
Every time you enter a body of water, so like if you take a bath, that's fucking terrifying.
While conducting an interview with a test subject transported into this ocean, the conversation is suddenly interrupted by a scream as the test subject sees some kind of horrifying aquatic creature. The creature is so large that it's casually eating a whale. Unfortunately,
Casually eating a whale? If you've never seen a whale before, I don't think you can imagine, I don't think you can comprehend the sheer size of a whale. Now imagine something eating that. I think this is beyond our comprehension with how fucking massive this is supposed to be. that is one big motherfucker.
Unfortunately, due to the way this SCP works, its appearance can't be described very much because that would expose everyone to its effects. What's even
Its effects being what exactly? Being big? Being eaten? Getting eaten? If you look at it, if you hear a description of it, you get eaten.
Scarier though is that as they're attempting to pull the test subject out of the water before they're attacked by this aquatic being, the cable pulling him out suddenly went taut and then slacked. Afterward, the water in the tub that the subject was originally submerged in became polluted with blood and no remains were ever found.
Okay, yeah, you get eaten. Okay, never mind. I take it back. You get eaten. You get nommed.
However, somehow, it gets even worse. One test subject, labeled D1732, was repeatedly exposed to the creature without the use of amnestics to help them forget about its existence afterward. As the testing went on, the subject became more and more avoidant of the water, eventually claiming that they could see the creature in any amount of water. Some amount of time after the subject—
Wait, any amount of water? So like your toilet. If it's any amount of water, that means it could be in your toilet. Imagine taking a big fat dump and just getting I'm not finishing that thought. You can do that yourself. Let's go on.
Was initially exposed to the creature, D1732 was suddenly and violently pulled into a glass of water by the creature and no remains.
I humbly take back my toilet comment. A glass of fucking water? Never mind. Never mind. I thought a toilet was bad. A glass of water though? Oh my god.
Were ever recovered. This fish, or whatever it is, will
Y'all with the lassophobia eating real bad today.
always get you, no matter what. While this one is personally terrifying to me, I have several that are even worse that I'll be covering in this video. For those who somehow don't know what SCP are, SCP stands for Secure, Contain, Protect, and SCPs are anomalies that exist that are being cataloged by the SCP Foundation. That's the most lore you're getting out of me because we could spend this entire video on that alone. So that being said, do you recognize this tree?
Sprookjesboom, Efteling. What did I win?
If you do, then you're definitely familiar with this next SCP. If not, this image is the old Craggle tree, a depiction of one of the characters in a park called Cragglewood Park. This amusement
No. It's the Efteling, and it's a thematic. It's like a fairy tale theme park.
park that supposedly exists in the memories of a few people is quite the strange place. Dr. Reiner was able to interview a few people who have memories of this park, and what we uncover is quite unnerving. In the first interview, the subject claims that this is just some nightmare they used to have. They think it was based off a different real theme park that they got traumatized from. They then get into the description of the park. I enter this theme park. It's like Disneyland, but smaller. There's no rides, just this long, winding road through the woods. Everything's bright and colorful, like a cartoon. And there's all these trees around me, but
Okay, this is the Efteling. I'm calling it right here. This is the Efteling. This is the fairy tale forest in the Efteling.
after being asked about the trees, they say they've all got faces, and they're singing. They've got
Okay,
these
never mind.
dopey, cheerful
It's not the Efteling. In the Efteling, the mushrooms sing.
looks like in one of those old-time cartoons, right? And they just sing and laugh and sing. Obviously, these
Sing
trees are
and
the
laugh
same
and
as the one
sing.
that was depicted in the drawing. They continue. There's this music that's playing everywhere. It's like organ music, but not the kind you hear in a church. More like the sort you might hear in a carnival. Afterwards, they mention that there is one ride in the park, a merry-go-round. Apparently in the dream they aren't alone either, as other kids are there as well. All of the kids are smiling and laughing, but not because they're happy, because they're afraid of what will happen if they don't act happy, because the trees want them happy. They then conclude with this statement. Just as I'm getting ready to leave, I see something. A tiny tree sprouting up near my foot. It looks up at me. It's smiling with that big, dopey, happy grin. When I see it, that's when I start screaming. That's when I wake up. When asked why it makes them scream, the subject says, because it has my face. I don't think it would be far-fetched to say that these trees may be created from the souls of previous children that were lost in this non-existent park, and maybe some that made the wrong decision in their
Wait, but then how does it have your face and not like just another kid's face? Or is it like in the process of absorbing you?
dreams. But let's continue to the second interview. In interview 2, Dr. Reiner speaks to Janine Yearling about her experience mainly with the carousel. When speaking about this, she says that before the other kids got on, some hugged kids that didn't get on. Some smiled and some cried, and she left them as they rode the carousel. When looking at the interview transcript, you can see by her reactions and the way that she's speaking about this park that it doesn't just seem like a bad dream. It seems like it really existed. Dr. Reiner even says that this woman went through a deeply traumatizing experience. While this interview is definitely eye-opening, the next interview where Dr. Reiner interviews Randolph Blair is the one that truly changes everything. Reiner asks Randolph about a video cassette, to which Randolph has a viscerally angry reaction. Reiner gets him to focus and asks him where exactly he got the tape from, to which he responds that he just found it in the attic. Dr. Reiner then
That's a setup for a horror game. Isn't that literally the plot of like Amanda the Adventurer?
asks him if they recognize any of the images on the tape, and he says that he does from nightmares and stuff like that. That maybe someone showed him the tape as a kid. Dr. Reiner continues by asking if he's been raised in that house by his parents, which he confirms. As Dr. Reiner brings up the front bedroom, he immediately says he doesn't want to talk about this. Dr. Reiner tries to dig further, and Randolph says, I don't know, I just don't know. It's always had stuff in it, but nobody uses it. That's why I keep it locked, okay? I don't think about it. If it was such an inconspicuous room, he obviously wouldn't even think about it enough to purposely keep it locked.
Wait. So this is a room in your house that you always keep locked, but you don't know why? Kind of reminds me of Robert the Doll, like that story, because he was also in a locked room. I'm trying to make connections too much because I I love horror, I love cryptids, I love spooky stories, I love haunted items and haunted stuff. So I am unconsciously making a lot of connections.
So, what's the real reason here? Dr. Reiner attempts to ask Randolph one last question. If he's always been an only child. To this, Randolph refuses to respond. Obviously, the contents of this tape had to be investigated if they wanted any answers. The tape begins with heavy breathing followed by shaky footage of a gravel path in a forest. In the distance, calliope music can be heard, and as the camera pans around, we can also see other kids walking down the path, with some holding hands. A conversation begins behind the camera. I'm scared. Shh. It's okay. It's okay. Don't cry. You have to smile. You have to. Distant singing is heard. Smile. Smile, please. Just smile. We'll be okay, I promise. I'll take care of. This is interrupted by static, followed by blurred images as the music and singing distorts. A dozen children are seen around that infamous carousel. What's happening? Shh, just... Oh, God. What are they? What are they? Listen, you have to. I'm sorry. You have to go. You have to. No, you aren't. Go, please. I'm sorry. I'll be okay. Just... Besides the obvious that this amusement park is real, we also know that this video was more than likely recorded by Randolph, which makes his viscerally angry reactions to these questions make sense. The camera...
Wait, so he got out? Why would he record? But he got out, and he brought a tape with him.
The camera then shows someone racing down a forest path before the camera eventually centers on a face that looks up and smiles.
I hate
Based
that
on what
so
we know,
much.
this is probably the face of Randolph, who's, again, presumably recording.
I hate that
We then
so
hear the
much.
other voice singing, meaning he's been turned into another tree. I don't think it's a stretch to say Randolph and his brothers somehow ended up at this park, though the way you enter is still unknown. For some reason, his brother already knew the rules of this place and seems to have sacrificed himself either by staying behind or more specifically getting on the merry-go-round, allowing Randolph to escape, likely barely. A mysterious amusement park whose only purpose seems to be to turn these children into these mindless trees for seemingly no reason. One that is so mysterious and rare, we don't even know how these kids ended up there and how many have been sacrificed to this park. To me, that is especially terrifying.
Okay, that is actually really, really creepy. So the children have been turned into trees that sing and cheer. How do you get into that amusement park? Only through nightmares?
SCP-1562 was an anomaly that particularly unnerved me the first time I read about it. This anomaly is a metal playground slide that was found in an abandoned playground in an...
These motherfuckers, when the sun hits them just right, you will have toasted buns. You'll have toasted buns and a sore ass for weeks. This thing on its own could be an SCP. Like, just every single metal slide on its own could be an SCP.
An unknown location. Generally, it's harmless unless for some reason you choose to slide down headfirst on your stomach with both arms tucked down at your sides. If you do that, you'll incur a fate that I consider worse than death.
Yes.
Around 15 centimeters or 5.9 inches away from the end of the slide, you'll suddenly disappear, never to be seen again. Test subject D2445 was given...
Wait, I thought he just meant that your tummy hurts and you land face first in the rocks. Because that's what I did. That's what I did. You just go like, you go head first and then you face plant into the tile. That might be why I'm so weird now. I hit my head too often as a kid.
Given a radio earpiece that allowed them to communicate with Dr. Darretts upon teleporting out of sight. As we read the logs of their conversation, we see D2445 saying that they'd been transported into a small tunnel that was really cramped. There was no source of light, and they couldn't move at all. They're surrounded by rock and dirt on all sides. They begin to freak out more and more, especially after being informed that their safety line got severed when they got teleported away, which, frankly, I can't blame them.
Oh, you're fucked. Oh, you're so fucked. I'm not claustrophobic, but if there's something that just chills me to my core is the stories about people who go caving and just get stuck there and die. And the amount of people that will never get out of some caves because they have either been lost or they are in some kind of weird position that their body just will not bend the proper way to get them out. That just chills me to my core. This gives me the same kind of vibe.
They eventually start inching forward before they're stopped by a pair of shoes. Small shoes. Communication was paused as the researchers discussed how they were going to get D2445 out of there. Eventually they contacted D2445 again.
Oh, and they have their arms at their sides. They're tucked in. You can only worm your way. You can just wiggle forward. Every single kid is also stuck in there. It must smell really bad in there.
Again, to inform him of their plan to send another test subject outfitted with more gear after him to get him out of there. The conversation, though, was odd. Are you still there, D2445? Please, I don't want to be in here anymore. We're gonna send someone in to pull you out. It started talking. What started talking? The little boy did, but he didn't make any sense. Tell me what he said.
The kids are alive. Or at least the kid in front of him.
He just kept asking where he was, and I told him I didn't know. But I don't think he was really talking to me because he didn't respond to my voice, and he told me to stop crying when I was actually sort of calm. What else? Was he moving at all during this? I don't think so. He started screaming, and I told him to shut up, but he just kept screaming and crying and asking for his mommy. Then he finally stopped, and shortly after that, you contacted me again. Please get me out now. Okay, we're sending someone in. Don't panic if you hear or feel something behind you. Please hurry.
Maybe they can only hear the person in front of them and not behind them? Maybe?
My chest is... I think it's pretty easy to see why this park was abandoned. Maybe the kid just couldn't hear him though, right? Maybe he was just too freaked out. I'm sure this tunnel doesn't have some kind of, I don't know, anomalous property that affects your mind or anything. Anyway, after this conversation cut, D8600 was shortly sent after D2445 with a GPS tracker, headlamp, and video and audio recording equipment, all while attached to a tether. During the conversation between D8600 and Dr. Daretz, D8600 describes the place in the same way that D2445 did. However, he also adds that his headlamp immediately stopped working as soon as he ended up in there. Eventually, he manages to come into contact with D2445, but something is clearly off. I'm still head first on my stomach and my body's at an angle, but I'm in some sort of small tunnel and I'm stuck. I'm completely surrounded by rock and dirt on all sides.
Wait, rock and dirt? This is like caving. He's in some kind of weird angle. He's stuck. He's surrounded by rock and dirt on all sides. This is caving. This is just like one of those horror stories. And the worst part is that those are true.
I don't have enough room to raise my head or move my arms, and I can't move forward. I really need to get out of here now. Okay, man, it's okay. I'm gonna try to get my arms up and I'll grab a hold of your ankles. They should be able to pull us out of here then. No, I told you I can't see anything. I'm getting kind of freaked out now. I'm not really claustrophobic, but this is pretty uncomfortable. Pull me out of here. I'm working on it. Have some... D8600, stop talking. Something isn't right here. D2445 is just repeating everything he said to me when we initially made radio contact with him. Alright.
Oh no. They're already dead. They're echoing.
Alright, well, maybe, just maybe, this tunnel does have some strange effect on the mind. D2445 continues to repeat his end of the conversation as D8600 asks Dr. Daretz to pull them out. And look, I'm sorry, okay, I don't know if I should say Daretz or Daretz, and I just realized I've been repeating it. It's okay, dude, you've already noticed it. Anyway, let's continue. Dr. Daretz says that he can't as the rope severed, and he didn't know that that would happen. A cold lie. D8600 chooses to make his way backwards as the conversation continues. Are you making progress, D8600? A little. It's not easy, but I'm getting there. The air's kind of stale in here. I hope there's enough air for me to make it back. Hey, did he finally shut up? I'm not hearing him on my end anymore either. Well, thank God for that. I was starting to think that... What is it? You were starting to think that... D8600? Are you still there? What happened? Neither D8600 nor D2445 would be able to be contacted ever again, and further testing was indefinitely suspended. I kind of wonder if the tunnel is really made out of rock or some type of unknown mineral that severely affects the brains of those unfortunate enough to come in contact with it. Presumably, if the person at the top is actually close to the surface, this effect would probably cause them to be unable to dig their way out in time. Maybe this is some sort of punishment derived by one truly evil individual to curse those unlucky enough to ever attempt to slide one very specific way.
Wait, are they facing downwards? I thought they were just like straight or something. No, he's at an angle. He did say it was at an angle. That's deeply unsettling.
The afterlife is one of those existential concepts that humans have been theorizing over for thousands of years. Out of the many beliefs that exist though, heaven or its equivalent counterparts have always been seen as good, understandably so. But what if an afterlife you thought to be heaven was actually the exact opposite? SCP-7179 is a part of SCP's alphabet anthology, which on its own hosts a number of terrifying anomalies. This one specifically is called E is for Eternity. This place that can only be accessed upon one's passing appears as a solitary...
Wait, I'm sorry, unrelated, completely unrelated, but does the background music kind of sound like Danganronpa to anyone else?
island surrounded by nothing but ocean in the distance. The temperature is always the most comfortable for whoever's soul happens to be there, and it's always daytime. There are many tropical fruits, with some possessing the same effects as certain chemical substances. Animals also exist here,
One
and there's a
Piece.
house on the island where up to 3 people that the person will be attracted to will stay. These people have seemingly no personality or free will though. Because this is an
One Piece.
afterlife, people aren't able to
Sorry.
die no matter what injuries they incur, although they will suffer the pain of said injuries and recovery. We're then able to follow a man's consciousness as he travels into this place. In the beginning he has a lot of fun, but as we hit the year 2 and 3 mark, we can already see a drop in his mental health. On year 3 specifically, he begins neglecting food, and no matter how much he attempts to speak to the women in the beach house, they have no individuality. Just dolls. 2 years later, he just wanders the island, and 1 year after that, he desperately attempts to escape the island, only to immediately teleport to the opposite side of the island anytime he gets to the edge. By year 7, it seems like he's finally finding solace in cooking and creating a farm. As year 18 arrives, he's a cooking expert and seems to be looking into botany. Things are going well. Year 37 announces the arrival of boredom.
37.
Things aren't working. His mental state has fallen by year 81, but he eventually looks into construction. 20 years later, he builds his first
Does he not age? Does he just keep going?
house. At year 287, several structures have been built on the island. Year 416 sees him making every prior building into livable housing and beginning to expand these structures. By year 850, he slows down as he's more or less reached his peak with building and begins to tear down and rebuild these structures over and over. Year 2009, his mental state has declined more and more, and he begins to become existential as he realizes that this is it. This is all he'll know forever. He continues to go down hills. By year 5478, he tears down random buildings until they're all gone and begins rebuilding them. Eventually,
Wait, how do they monitor this if it's 11,000 years at this point?
he takes out his rage on the women that exist in the beach house in year 11902, virtually tearing them apart. He clearly
It took him
doesn't take any
11,000
enjoyment
years. At least it took him 11,000 years to get violent to women. So, I mean, at that point, it's hard to blame him.
virtually tearing them apart. He clearly doesn't take any enjoyment from this, and again attempts to escape the island via a different method, though this again doesn't work. He's become numb to these horrific acts and begins to experiment on the women. As the next 15,980,400
Wait, what's a different method? Unsubscribing. I mean, at this point, right, if you've lived like 100,000 years, I don't think you're gonna get there, bestie. I don't think it's gonna happen.
100 years pass, he again and again tries different ways of destruction. Of course, due to his immortality, none work. By year 1.2 billion, he's trying his hardest to find anything to stimulate his mind. It's a wonder he still has one at this point. 8.5 billion, he fails yet another escape attempt. 30 billion, he simply stares at the perpetually shining sun. Just another thing that ceases to change. No sunset, no night, no rain, no clouds, no wind. Just sun. 1 trillion years. He seems to have given up all activity. Around 50 octillion years have passed.
What the shit?
I think. At this point, theoretical concepts are being realized. 1 Google has passed. That number is a 1 followed by 100 zeros.
My
This is
God.
only 1 second of his eternity.
1 second of eternity has passed. I think this one qualifies for one sentence horror stories. I think this qualifies for one sentence horror stories. I have so many questions left.
Appears as a solitary island surrounded by nothing but ocean in the distance.
So it appears as a solitary island. It's just an island, like an island that exists? Is it an afterlife kind of thing? Like the sun never sets. So it shouldn't technically be an island that exists because the sun will set eventually, considering like the sun will explode in about 10 billion years, right? Something like that. This is not on a planet, I believe then. It has to be some sort of afterlife kind of thing. Some sort of cursed afterlife. Because he's been there for longer than that we have records that the earth is old.
Fairy tales and old poems always seem to have this unsettling air around them, at least for the most part. A lot of these children's tales are about really scary creatures.
I'm sorry for interrupting so many times, but these are just topics I really like. I love fairy tales. I love fairy tales. I'm gonna shut up for now. I'm gonna stop yapping. I'm gonna let the video do its talking for me for now, but I shall be interfering here and there probably just to share a little tidbit of information maybe.
creatures or are filled with allegories to death, if not just directly saying it. This image is an alleged engraving from 1863 of a supposed creature that was referred to in old German nursery rhymes.
Not unlikely. Not entirely unlikely. That is definitely within the scope of fairy tales. So I'm already interfering here. I'm gonna already interfere because, as you said, fairy tales have a lot to do with dark storylines and death and stuff like that. Like this as well. Like it may look very, very unsettling, but just remember that these are meant to be. They're meant to be. So fairy tales, the way we know them, are stories. Fairy tales are stories. They're not too different from folklore and mythology. And the reason that they are so surrounded by dark storylines and misfortune and death is because they usually serve as a warning for children, for women, for basically anybody that is at some point of their day in potential danger, especially in the days where we still roamed the forests and there were, dangerous creatures, dangerous mushrooms. Don't eat everything you find, even if it looks edible, stuff like that. But also, almost every single country has their own story for a lake monster. Either a river monster, a lake monster, a pond monster, because bodies of water are very dangerous. Bodies of water are treacherous. It's very hard to see when it's muddy or when it's dark. You don't know how deep it is. You don't know if there's mud. You don't know if you're going to get pulled in. And especially children need to be taught to stay away from those. So they are lessons. They are lessons, they are warnings, and sometimes they are explanations for when bad things happen. Enough yapping. All of those were probably self-explanatory, but that's a little bit of explanation behind why they always seem so grim and so dark and full of death and misfortune and stuff like that.
Old German nursery rhymes. Which, yes, the creator confirmed they did make the rhyme up completely, and it's not based on anything. This creature, also referred to as SCP-4975, appears as a large creature possessing a beak, tail, and long, thin extremities. This creature will constantly rotate its cervical vertebrae individually as it moves, causing clicking and cracking sounds. These noises only stop when it's ready to attack. When it does, it will bash and rip its victim with its appendages until it eats the victim over a period of time. It, of course, does get even more terrifying though. A Freiburg citizen told local law enforcement that he had been hearing a strange rhythmic clicking noise for over 4 months and claimed that he was being actively stalked. SCP operatives would take the man into their custody and lie.
I'm gonna interrupt again, I'm very sorry. That actually reminds me of a modern day cryptid that we quite recently invented, the Fleshgate. It doesn't look like the Fleshgate. It's not similar in appearance to the Fleshgate, but it's definitely similar in description, of the stalking and the way it walks, the way it makes sounds. Anyway.
Over 4 months and claimed that he was being actively stalked. SCP operatives would take the man into their custody and lie to the local police force, saying that the man was simply experiencing paranoia and auditory hallucinations due to side effects of his chemotherapy. They would ask the man to show them where he last saw the creature, and afterward they would be shown walking through a wooded area. The man is obviously nervous and freezes after a few minutes. Despite pointing towards the area where the creature should be, the operatives see nothing. When watching surveillance footage inside its cell, it was shown that SCP-4975 had stopped moving its vertebrae completely and was staring in the exact direction of this man at that moment. Right after this, the man is suddenly thrown to the ground and begins being struck in the head and torso multiple times by a seemingly invisible attacker. Operatives attempt to neutralize the source of the attack, but can't seem to do anything. Eventually, an operative would finish the man off, and right afterwards, strips of the man's flesh would be taken from his body. Directly after this moment, SCP-4975 would appear to be eating, despite not being fed. The fact that only the victim can hear the clicking of the creature as it follows them, and that the creature can follow them and attack them without ever physically leaving the place it's in, is insanity. How can you even contain something like that? By the way, if you want...
So this is something that would not really qualify as a proper fairy tale, because there's no lesson to be learned. There's no escaping it, there's no lesson to be learned, it's just a bad ending is inevitable. But it is terrifying, and that's why it reminds me of a cryptid. Cryptids are not meant to have a lesson, necessarily. Not always, but some of them are just made up to be scary, or for clout, but that's a whole other story.
Wanted to hear the poem? It goes like this. I'll be showing the German version on the screen. Tick tock, the cuckoo clock ticks. Cuckoo, the bird inside sings. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. As ticks the time, so ticks your heart. May you live as long as you hear its song. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick tock. Listen close, for when it stops, the hatchling comes out of its home. Tick tock, tick tock, tick tock, tick. Did you hear it? Did it stop? My child, it meant your time was up.
Now that is a nursery rhyme. Nursery rhymes are always unnecessarily dark, and this is definitely like right in that vein.
SCP-6618 is a DVD with the words Papa's Ways on How to Discipline Your Child written on it in ink. On this DVD, we see a college student named James Vane being disciplined by another entity called Papa, though it's unknown if this being is human or not. The disc was originally found in Wyoming in July of 2004 following an investigation by a federal agent who was looking into a chain of disappearances. I'll now get into the actual content on this strange DVD. I do want to clarify, it will get pretty insane, as if this entire video isn't insane, but whatever.
Papa's way on how to raise and discipline your child.
As the video begins, we see this title card as light jazz music plays in the background.
Directed by
Vane
Papa.
is then shown standing in a corner, unable to move. The source of light illuminating him was a spotlight shown in his direction. The room also appears old and neglected. Above Vane's head, the words, "the classic way" appear before it switches to the words, "time out."
Oh.
Vane begins to call out, all of which to no response. Eventually he attempts to move away from the corner, yet all he can do is slightly shake his head no matter how much effort he exerts. Eventually he screams for help again multiple times to, again, no response. After this, the words, "he has been a bad boy" appear, with, "let us teach him to be a good boy again" appearing right after. As Vane begins to sob, the word "time" appears, with a number of the timestamp beside it. A time-lapse begins as we see Vane go through many attempts to escape as well as continuing to scream for help.
22 escape attempts from like standing in a corner.
19 hours later, he stands there completely silent.
19 hours. 19 hours. Standing for 19 hours is atrocious. A time lasts for another 78?
After another 78 hours, Vane is so weak that he basically can't do anything.
Yeah.
Eventually the footage finally slows down and the time text is replaced with, "he is now a good boy." Footsteps begin to approach him after the light is turned off. Vane screams, though the noise comes out in a rasp. I think the scariest thing to me here is the fact that Vane was being held by some invisible force to stand, and likely if he'd kept fighting, would have been forced to stand in that corner until he passed away.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know, that just particularly stands out to me. When playing the DVD again, this time it shows Vane, who is much thinner than before, sitting at a table with 27 plates of food and several pitchers of water on it. Relieved to finally be able to eat and drink, he begins to partake of the meal. On the screen, the words, "the healthy way," then "feeding him healthy food" appear. He continues to eat, avoiding the dishes containing vegetables. Doesn't seem like the best idea. After all, you're always supposed to get your kid to eat their veggies, right? As his condition improves, the word
I like vegetables. I think vegetables are actually really good. You just have to prepare them right. Some are just really good on their own though, but you just gotta prepare them right. I can't imagine like having stood for days and then skipping out on your vegetables. Like your muscles need, your body, your organs need all the nutrients they can get.
"remember to reward the behavior of good boys" appear on the screen. Vane finishes his food, and we see Vane speaking only to get no response as usual. He expresses relief as it seems that Papa isn't there. Eventually he gets up slowly and hesitantly and begins to walk out of camera shot. After footsteps approach the camera, it's turned off, and on the black screen appears the words, "and remember to punish the behavior of bad boys." When the camera comes back on, we can see Vane again sitting at the table with several pieces of lettuce stuffed in his mouth. He attempts to resist the multiple commands to chew before the spotlight turns off. When it comes back on, he's seen eating the lettuce himself. As he does this, the words, "he is now my good boy" appear on the screen.
What's wrong with this vegetable? What's wrong with this lettuce?
Before it switches to the words, "aren't you?"
No.
Vane responds,
Yes?
"Yes, Papa." As the 6th recording starts, the text, "the homey way," followed by "teaching them how to do chores" appear on a dark screen. Vane is then shown quivering as he stands in a hunched posture in front of the camera. At this point, he's noticeably starting to revert into a childlike state, probably in order to protect himself. The words, teaching your children responsibility makes them independent, followed by, also a great way to teach them to pay you back, appear on screen. Vane fearfully asks what he's supposed to be doing before a broom is dropped in front of him and he's commanded to sweep. As Vane sweeps, the camera angle switches to...
Okay, pause. I have a hot take. Children don't need to pay you back for taking care of them. You, as a parent, chose to have children. Your child does not owe you repayment for that. I don't think repaid is a very healthy word to use when it comes to parents and children. I think contribution should be more fitting. You know, as a kid, you're not supposed to rely on your parents for everything, okay? You can clean the house, you can do chores, you can wash the dishes, you can do the laundry, you can help your folks. If you have a healthy relationship with your parents, that shit comes automatic.
The one that only shows the floor angle of him sweeping. He soon begins to slowly retrieve something from his pocket as he's eventually seen only sweeping with one hand. The words, children are meant to be seen, not heard, followed by, sit back and watch them work as you relax.
Children are loud. That's what they do. That's what they are. They're kids. As long as they don't bother anybody, you gotta teach them manners. I don't think it's right to silence them completely.
Appear on screen. Eventually, as Vane's sweeping form breaks down more and more, he finally takes his chance. He knocks the camera down with the broom before wrapping duct tape around something. As Papa begins to exclaim no repeatedly, Vane triumphantly announces, "The light won't be turning off now, Papa. It won't be turning off now. You can't get me anymore." He finishes wrapping the spotlight in tape as he tells Papa that he'll never be taken down again. As repetitions of the word no fill up the screen, the tape is eventually heard ripping and Vane attempts to run away before the word punishment fills up the screen. The spotlight turns off and the sounds of a body being slammed onto the ground are heard, as well as the further damage that ensues. The punishment lasts 40 minutes. I cannot imagine any human being would survive that or be able to slam someone on the ground like that for 40 minutes. On the 8th recording, we see the title is changed to Papa's Ways to Punish Your Child. The best way, followed by self-reflection, appear on screen. The tape is heard being wrapped around something.
Self-reflection? You call that self-reflection? You call that self-reflection?
Before we hear Vane apologizing and pleading with Papa.
Oh, he survived.
Well, somehow, he's alive. Papa just has to be keeping him alive with some anomalous properties at this point. I've coddled you enough, boy, and it is time to teach you a lesson in listening to your Papa. Appear on screen. Vane continues to plead more before he's slapped and liquid is heard splattering on the ground. I loved you. I fed you. I raised you. And now you rebel against me? You will learn your place, boy, like your siblings have.
If this is how you raise your kid, you should not have kids. Toxic Parent 101. Tell them that you did everything for them and that you never get anything in return. Tell them that they never listen to you. And then obviously, for the last one, wonder why they won't seek contact with you when they're grown up. If your parents have ever been like this, just remember that just because they gave birth to you doesn't mean you owe them shit. You're your own person, not theirs.
Vane pleads even more at this point. Let's see your true face. Appears on screen before the spotlight is turned on and the camera is turned away, allowing the viewer to see remains sticking to the wall. Vane then finally gets to see himself in the mirror and screams. Probably because, I'd guess, your face wouldn't look very good after what happened prior.
Yeah, I'm assuming.
Maybe Vane really does believe he's a child at this point, and seeing the distorted face of a grown man threw him off.
Oh.
Recording 9. The modern way, followed by the Ferber method, appear on screen. Vane is in a nearly unlit room laying on a bed with an inefficiently small blanket. Because of this, he's seen shivering as he lays there. As he cries, he strangely sounds like an infant at this point. Even if your baby is crying in the other room, appears on screen. Vane begins to move his visibly contorted arms like an infant would as he continues to lay there crying. Know that they're trying to get your attention, appears.
Well, yeah! Obviously, that's what crying is for! If a baby cries, that's because they want something. And they cannot express what they want. They cannot communicate with you other than through trying to grab your attention. Through crying.
Vane then attempts to sit up, but he physically just can't anymore. They have nothing else to do but that, is shown. Vane continues to cry loudly, so never answer their cries, appears on the screen. Eventually, Vane ceases crying and begins to suck his thumb, which is noticeably missing a fingernail. And if worse comes to worse and they still don't sleep, the small bit of lighting that existed outside of the window has been shut out. Vane begins to cry again. Force them to cry it all out, appears on the screen. For the remaining 47 minutes, Vane cries, and other faint crying is heard in other rooms of the facility as well. Papa loves all of you, my babies, appears at the end in small print at the bottom of the screen. I'm sure that detailed rundown probably traumatized you enough, but unfortunately for you, it gets even worse.
Oh god. It gets even worse. So this really seems like a very good setup for a horror game. I know I said that before, but it really does though. Like imagine like an RPG make a horror game. This shit would go very, very hard.
4 months after the discovery of this horrific DVD, a website called Papa's Parenting Journey was discovered. This website, created January 1st, 2000, displayed only an error message when accessed, but the IP address was still able to be traced to a location in rural Wyoming. Which has to be like almost all of Wyoming, but anyway, a crew would be sent to the exact location to investigate. The captain of this crew would record everything. Cautiously, they enter the house as 2 men guard the outside. The inside is absolutely unkempt and disgusting. They search around the house looking for any hidden areas. On the sofa, strange handprints are discovered that seem to be missing fingers. Under the sofa, they find a small metal trap door. They proceed down the dark staircase, and once they reach the bottom, they see tables with 3...
You know what I'm saying with the horror game? Like, look at this. Look at this and tell me it's not like horror game vibes. It's the graininess and the contrast being up, but like, just you see my vision, right? You see my vision.
Down the dark staircase, and once they reach the bottom, they see tables with 3 boxes sitting on each of them, DVDs all over the ground, a well-like structure with a wooden lid, and 20 television sets stacked up that are all still turned on. A faint rumbling sound is also heard. All of the DVDs are SCP-6618. As they continue to investigate, they notice that each TV set shows different people in varying negative situations. One is a woman in her 30s chained to a wall, another an East Asian woman being forced to kneel on a plate of mango seeds, and finally, someone crushed against the wall. All of them were mouthing Papa indefinitely. The rumbling noise becomes louder, and they approach the well-like structure where it's coming from.
I'm not trying to take this seriously. I really am not. But how does anybody persuade themselves that this is a good parenting style? Like, honestly, honest to God, violence aside, right? Like, just the mentality. How does anyone persuade themselves that this is a good parenting style?
On the wooden lid, the words, "I have to leave. Papa loves you so much," have been written hastily in red. Finally, they open the lid, revealing hundreds upon hundreds of cadavers, some clearly recent and some clearly not. They all churn like a vat of liquid, and disciplinary items like belts, chains, and mango seeds are seen. All of the corpses are wailing like a crying baby. One body is seen climbing along the side of the well, and despite the horrific damage, the one single person holding themselves above all the deceased is James Vane, who can only scream Papa. In a way, he was still fighting after all of this time.
So that was the most terrifying SCPs according to Gearisko. They were really good. I don't think these are the most terrifying ones, but that is just for me personally. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. Thank you so much for being here. I appreciate all of you. I hope to see you again in the next one, and bye-bye. Okay, bye!
Used to go down hills. By year 5478, he tears down random buildings until they're all gone and begins rebuilding them. Eventually, he takes out his rage on the women that exist in the beach house in year 11902, virtually tearing them apart. He clearly doesn't take any enjoyment from this, and again attempts to escape the island via a different method, though this again doesn't work. He's become numb to these horrific acts and begins to experiment on the women. As the next 15,980,400 years pass, he again and again tries different ways of destruction. Of course, due to his immortality, none
What happened
work.
to my model?
By year 1.
What happened to my model? Ma'am? 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 What the fuck?